TempahZone.
How's it going, everybody? Wherever you listen to this podcast right here, this is episode 102 of the TempahZone podcast with your host, me, Amir, Maxx, and that's all facts. And ladies and gentlemen, my special guest in the Zoom chat in the building today, he's made hits, all right? I'm just going to say that right now. He is behind a lot of big records right here, many Billboard charting songs, multiple number one hits, man. He's worked with Vybz Kartel, worked with XXXTentacion, rest in peace. He's worked with Shabba Ranks, Mavado Egyptian, Sean Paul, man. They call a bunch of people, man. I just got to let it be known who I got on before I introduce you, man. I got JonFX in the building, man. FX, what's going on, my brother?
Amir, my brother, thank you for having me, on this podcast. Always here to share and support and give as best information as we can at a time like this. But thank you for that introduction. I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
Hey, absolutely, man. I had to give you that, strong of an intro because I think, I respect the producers in this game, man. You know what I'm saying? And I really think it's just dope to see what you've been doing, showing support just in all aspects. And, obviously you have the skills and the knowledge to do all that stuff. But was it ever part of the plan to be a producer? Was there ever a point in your career where you wanted to be like the artist in the front?
So, being very young, 3, 4, I used to sing up to I think age 9. I always liked the instruments, and I used to like reading credits on the albums. So there's like gospel albums and Neil Diamond, and there's all these albums in the house. Grew up in a Christian house, but I used to look at the back and I was like, who's that? What did that person do? I know the artist, but then there's all these other names, and then I got intrigued by the inner workings of how a record was being made, and there was this guy. Not an engineer, not a musician. This guy called a producer and an executive. I was like, I want to do that. Very, very early. At age 9, 10. I used to sing, and someone told me that if you don't use your voice, you're going to lose it. So I guess that's maybe what happened. I don't sing as well as I used to back then, but I just love producing. I didn't miss anything to me because I just still love to create, be behind the creative part of the music and to watch the artists curve them into the vision that they're seeing, what fits the record best. Yeah, so I always wanted to do it.
Wow, that's cool because obviously there was a time in in the hip hop scene where the producer is in the forefront, but I feel like when it comes to the producer nowadays, they're kind of behind the scenes. Do you feel that's kind of what a producer has to accept, that you are behind the scenes, that you won't get that shine that you should get? How would you respond to that?
So what happens is, I could get kind of technical.
Yeah, no, go for it.
I'm going to get kind of technical. So in America, did something interesting in the 80s and the 90s. They called a musician a beat maker, a producer. So back in the day, if you walked with a drum machine, that would be considered a drum kit, a drum set. And even if you walk with a keyboard, that's considered a keyboard. So if you're playing at a Motown or something like that, you're just a musician. So America made the musician and they called him a producer. So when you make a beat, they say you're the producer. And that has nothing to do with production. Making beats is not producing. You know what I mean? That's just what a musician would do. He was hired to just make a track. So where it comes to the question that you asked to be in the forefront, most of the individuals I know now, they're really artists that are just very creative. And they use the term producing because they make the beat. But that's not really what producing is. You know what I mean? Producing is actually structuring the record. Even if you're not the one to make the beat, you have to step back and I need to bring in the proper guy that could make this beat with this guitar, not a loop or blah, blah, blah. That's what real production is, because you're giving the record what it needs. It's a whole different thing from what I see today. I remember when I just came to America, I made a beat at a studio, and they said to me, you're the producer. This is 2001. Like, what? As I was a musician, I played a drum machine and I made this beat on a drum machine, but I made it for you. The guy's like, no, you're the producer. It's like, I'm the producer. Okay, cool. It's like, I reckon that America called the guy that make the beat the producer. Mm-hmm. So when I listen to records now, I listen to a lot of records that are not produced to me to a standard. I'm like, no bridge, there's no noise. But it's the vibe. I'm like, okay, I guess this is where we're at now. Can't fight it.
Yeah.
But there's a standard that I still maintain because country music still maintains it, classical music still maintains it. So still there.
Mm-hmm.
And when we get to the Grammys, you're gonna see the difference. When we get to those questions.
Yeah, no, definitely, man. No, and I think
if I answer you properly, you asked me being in the background and being in the forefront. People that chose to be engineers and producers were people who were more wanted to be settled in the background. You know what I mean? If you want a forefront, maybe producing is maybe not the job for you. And that's not the title you may want. But I guess it's because I got the most money, everybody wants it. Right into this year. You know what I mean? But,
No, I hear you, man, and it's good that you put that clarification because I think it's definitely got lost into what a producer is. I think a lot of people who make beats call themselves a producer, but it's like you're just making beats. Like, you're not putting anything.
Can I admit to you?
Go for it.
I was a beat maker for 15 years. I became a producer for the last 5. Wow. I could admit it because I could see the transition. I was like, I was just making beats. I just became a producer. But most people wouldn't admit it, but I can. Because I've seen the journey. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I could see where I would think that everything is a hit when everything is not a hit. Because now I'm starting to look from the lens of a producer and say, well, this would need that. I need to bring in a choir here. I need to bring in a guitarist there. And, and then I started to see from a different lens. So, yeah.
Wow. Yes. That's some big stuff right there, and I think to come to that realization, like, wow, this whole time, like I wasn't even like what I thought I was, that
a beat maker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's nothing wrong with being just a beat maker, and I definitely want to say that, but there definitely we have to draw a line with it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
yes.
I almost feel like that's happening with the term rapper. Like a lot of guys claim to be rappers, but they're really like sing rappers. Like I feel like that means like a new term. You know what I mean?
Talking in key. That's what I call it. Talking in key. Yeah. You know what I mean? With some auto tune. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's all good, in music, the terminology is going to change like that. So, what are you going to do about it,
Yeah. Yes.
Oh man. Yeah, it's crazy stuff. But I definitely want to ask you though, with just, you coming up, growing up in Jamaica, was it difficult growing up in that music scene? Was there advantages to it? Because Jamaica's got a rich history with a lot of great music. So what was that like coming up in that game?
So in Jamaica, there's middle Jamaica, there's lower class, and there's upper class. Mm-hmm. So upper class only would listen to American stuff, American music. They don't really listen to reggae music, upper class. They may listen to a few commercial reggae songs. And then lower class, ghetto, they listen to the street, what's happening in the streets, because that's all they could hear. They don't have CD players, they don't have record players. You know what I mean? They'll listen to the streets. And then the middle class is where I'm from. Mm-hmm. I'm in the middle. So my parents, we don't really, they used to listen to RJ, we had CDs and stuff. So Jamaicans get tired of Jamaican food. Just like how Jamaicans get tired of Jamaican music. They're like, I want to hear some R&B, I want to hear some Celine Dion and Kenny Rogers. I thought Kenny Rogers was a Jamaican artist. Because Jamaica just love the country music and they love Celine Dion.
Jamaicans do love Celine Dion. They
love something. When you see the jazz and blues in Jamaica, when that concert keeps and then the Celine Dion's perform and stuff, you're like, wow, I understand now why it is that way. So there's a radio station called RJR that they would play albums. Just albums of Queen, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, OJ's, the Manhattans. They just play the entire album on Sundays. And that's where a lot of I didn't really hear reggae music in my house until I was in my teens. It was always just other music, you know what I mean? Because my dad, very versatile on music, and my mom just listened to different stuff. They knew a lot of the reggae people, a lot of the artists that we know. I know they knew them personally. So it wasn't something that they would listen to for entertainment. They would just listen to it if the person's around. You know what I mean? Okay, Half Pint is here. Play some Half Pint. But they know them. So it's for their excitement, they would put in what is rare to them. the OJs, the Marvin Gaye, the people that you can't really put your hands on. You know, you see the Jamaican artists all day. You know, so that's why I love the way I grew up, because then it made me. I started making EDM music before I start making reggae.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Start making dance music, because in the 90s was like, what is love? Those are big records. Baby, don't. So in Jamaica, that I love those kind of music. So I made those. You know what I mean? I made that first. And then reggae was, when I came to America, I was like, there's a rich culture that the world loves called reggae. Okay, I'll just make some reggae. But in Jamaica, I was interested in it. None at all. Yeah. Yeah. I just was interested in it.
It's funny how that works. It's like you're from the place that, birthed reggae and ska and dance hall. It's like, but you're like, nah, I want to do that. I want to do the stuff outside of it. It's funny. It's funny how that works.
A prophet is never honored in his own place. And reggae is such a great music. It tend to be, it's so normal to you. Just like the food in Jamaica. People go crazy over jerk chicken, regular Jamaican. No. I want steak. I want burgers and pizzas, you know? So most of the music in Jamaica now, it's like wanna sound like rap. They call it trap dancehall. And it's because they're trying to stay away, so far away from the culture. I want that culture. It's too old and it's too rootsy. But when the tourists and the people that love the culture, they want to see the guy with the dreadlocks cut the jelly and say, one love, Irie, respect. So the world still likes that, and then you're trying to go away from it. So coming to America let me have a real true appreciation of my culture. Then I missed it, and so how can I help it to get to the level? That was my musical background.
Yeah, wow, that's a real good way of to summarize it there. And I think with everything that you worked on, I mean, you definitely have a ton of dance hall records, bunch of reggae records under your belt. So no one could ever take away the fact that you got that sound in you. You know what I mean? So, but it's dope to see that you've ventured out and stepped outside of that. So I definitely want to ask you about how. You worked with XXXTentacion and I found that, with all the list of artists you have and then him, it's like, wow, he really stands out considering the style and the vibe that he all delivered. How did you come about working with him? So,
2016, 2017, I started to work at Art House Studios. Andre had a studio, good brother of mine. And I was basically resetting my life at the studio. So I was just there like in-house, like staying there every day. And he kept telling me that Andre is working with this guy, and he recorded a record with the kid, which was Look at Me. He already recorded the song, and the song was already big on SoundCloud. And he's like, yo, this guy, everybody wants to sign him. And I was like, yeah, sure. So I'm basically sleeping in the studio. Wow. That's where I basically lived there. You know what I mean? Because I was just like, I have to just reset my life again. So I just said, let me focus on the gift that I have, music. So I'm in the studio. I've done with my rounds because I wake late. So I wake at this time, and then I go all the way till in the morning, 9 a.m. bedtime for me. So I did the same thing at 9 a.m. I was working on a Sizzler album at the time. And at 9 a.m., Andre calls me. Bro, I know it's your bedtime, but XXXTentacion want to come over. I was like, oh, who's this guy? Man, I'm tired. And something said, because I take my suit off at the time, put a robe on, and I go to sleep. I have to put back on my suit again with the tie and the vest. Because that's the signature I have. Well, man, I get back dressed again. Then he comes, and then I see him. He's quiet in the studio. He wanted to have this record recorded instantly to dedicate it to a young lady. The young lady's name is Joyston Flores. He wanted to dedicate this record to her. No, and he needed it recorded today. So I was like, okay, I'll record it. Took me a long time.
Damn.
He wanted the backgrounds. I know there's somewhere out there. He wanted the backgrounds to be firm and things of that nature. I keep getting this call. He wanted the backgrounds to be firm. And things, man, this person not stop calling. So he wanted the backgrounds to be firm. And I walk with the plaque, Oh, the first plaque I did with him.
I was wondering what
carry
you
it
were
with
reaching
me.
for.
Yeah, I have about 20 of them now with him. But this is the Justin Flores plaque.
Oh
I
shit.
take it around with me
Yeah.
to show
Man.
people. It's now 5-time platinum. First record I recorded with him to dedicate to the young lady. And I did it. He wanted me to mix it. I was like, man, I don't mix. And then he's like, oh man. I called Andre. I was like, yo, he want me to mix the record. Normally we send the record out to mix and master. And Andre said, just do a mix to it because I mix Look at Me too. I was like, all right. I did a little mix to it and then I sent it over to a guy in LA I know named Cohen. Cohen was helping with his album at the time. I was like, Cohen, you gotta mix this for me properly. I'm gonna tweak, do what I do with it. I put a master tweak because he wants to put it out. No. We put the record out, Justin Flores, because the girl just passed away.
Yeah.
And he dedicated the record to her and it was good. Since then, no, he came back to the studio because he worked with vibe and energy.
Mm-hmm.
And most people tend to disrespect younger people or tend to want to teach you too much. You know what I mean? Like, oh, this is how it goes and blah, blah, blah. When I'm around people, if you don't ask me, I don't say anything.
Yeah.
So he liked the fact that he recognized I'm careful with my choice of words with him. Then he says to me, oh, who are you though? I was like, well, I'm a reggae producer guy, you know? Have some reggae hits, you know? And he's like, you go on the internet, he's like, yo, you're like a legend. Yo, you work with Sizzler? And you work with this guy? I said, I'm doing Sizzler's album right now.
Yeah.
He's like, what? So he said, I want to do a song with Sizzler. So I voiced him on a song with Sizzler. What I wasn't aware of, I forgot that his mom is Jamaican and his dad is Jamaican.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And his dad is a Rasta and his dad is a true fan of the reggae culture. So his dad always played all these reggae records for him, especially Sizzler. You know what I mean?
That's
so
dope.
for me to be doing a Sizzler album at the time when I just finished voicing Justin Flores, he gave me a verse right away. You know what I mean? I'm just about to post the video of the Sizzler session because he was praying in the back. I think I showed you the video sometime ago.
Yeah. I think you did. Yeah.
So then what I recognize is call his mom. When I did Justin Flores, he always called his mom and she'd be like, oh, that record is dope. That record is hot. You know, the hip hop records. When I did the reggae features with him, she went off in her Jamaican, yo, that bad no beat. Yo, that's gonna run the world. Yo, man, love that. He said he'd never see her reacted like that in his life.
Wow.
So he's like, yo, you have any more? Like, I got more. Here's a Vybz Kartel. So he recognized that I have all these songs that I've always had and I could get the artist. And for him to get the acceptance of his mom and his dad and his roots, I was the conduit to that for him. You know what I mean? I remember I used to give him hip hop tracks and he used to just be like, you got any reggae?
Yeah. He's like, I don't want no hip hop records, man. Like, I'm trying to do
not from me, you know?
Yeah.
He'll take those from other producers and stuff, you know, Ronnie and stuff. So he just wanted me to give him just that reggae stuff, you know? So I understood what my role was and I appreciated the role that I was given and I embraced it. And that's really how we went ahead. We started becoming more closer, started to share information, ways of thinking, ways of problem solving, you know, ways of attracting the things that you'd like to see, you know? And that's how we developed that thing, a good friendship, you know, brotherly friendship, respected friendship, and a brotherly bond. Yeah.
Absolutely. I totally can see that. I mean, y'all had a bunch of songs with each other and I know y'all would have, you know.
And then remember, I recorded like most of his songs.
Yeah.
He did an interview and he says, oh, my engineer FX. He mentioned it in an interview.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, he sees me as his engineer. Okay. I recorded like most of his songs.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's good. That's a good place to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Were you ever like used to engineering before he like asked you?
Yeah, so what happens is I grew up in the engineer culture.
Okay, yeah.
I rolled wires for years. So being at Caveman is the studio in Jamaica, the Rasta studio.
Okay.
Sizzler, you know, Luciana, you know, name it, all the Rasta guys, you know. Burst Hammond used to rehearse there, Dean Fraser, the band, 809 band. That's Caveman studio. It's been around eons. It's like a school of reggae, Rasta, you know. So when I went there, I was just like a guy that just come to be an assistant. You know what I mean? I get whatever they ask me to get. I stay very quiet. I don't talk at all. Days would pass and I don't talk. John, press that. John, do that. I just do it. John, play on this keyboard. Play. You know? So being there, a lot of youngsters they don't have an intern. They have an intern on their masters. It's good to intern with a master because then you learn a lot. You know what I mean? Their experience over many years will just eventually transfer over to you. So then being in the studio, that's what I would do. I was recording dub plates, engineering, just recording. Where I grew into that was moving to America. When I left Caveman, they gave me a note to some studios in America. Rasta, Jamaican studios, Jalife. I went to a bunch of studios, but I stayed at Jalife studio in New York. And then Jalife needed an engineer. And that's where my he bought a Pro Tools system, the first Pro Tools system in Brooklyn in 2001. It's called a DigiDesign 1. SCSI drives, the big drives, you know, that you have to put them in.
Yeah, so I know you're talking about.
He had those with the Macintosh with the big back, you know, flat screen, the big purple screen looking plastic thing. So I started he wanted me to master Barrington Levy because he produced all these reggae hits over the years and they were on reel-to-reel 2-inch machines. And he knew that I was an engineer from Jamaica, so he wanted me to clean them up and do a master to them, brighten them up with the plugins in Pro Tools. And I basically learned to use the program under a guy named Myri. I worked with him, but he just gave me the job to just do all of it. So eventually I did the entire thing and I cleaned up the songs and it was like, it sounds bright, it sounds clean because it's from tape and record and you got to take the scratches out and all these things. Add instruments were needed. So it's for reggae, iconic records that I grew up hearing and it was another honor for me. And I engineered a ton of the records, Sister Carol and Skia and Success and Cartel and Livingston. And that it took me I'm pretty sure I did 10,000 hours just in engineering in New York only. You know what I mean? From 2001 to like 2010. You know, and then I moved here. And I still just was a beat maker then, making tracks. Moved to Florida. I mean, making tracks and just doing what I needed to do at the time. And being an engineer for at least 10, 15 years. Came down here as an engineer too. To Florida as an engineer, yeah. To, Saru Studios with Willard. I recorded Merciless, Determined, and then the Egyptian. I went back to New York and we had the remix, Gun Session and Egyptian. And I started to be more of a producer, hanging out with a DJ Obsession. So he had an ear, because DJs are good. They have an ear.
Oh, yeah. Now DJs be hearing everything.
They know they don't know what it is. Sometimes they don't know the notes, they don't know the keys. But they're like, yo, do that. And that will happen. I was like, but it's out of the bass is in a different key as the vocal. They're like, nah, got a vibe. Do it. So when I did that with him, we did that. Akon, he was the one that had the relationship with Akon. Obsession. Yeah, I just met Akon recently in person. Because what happens is I just did a lot of remixes. And the remixes was what actually brought me to the desk of a lot of the doors of a lot of the artists. So then that Gun Session remix was huge, it was mega. And I did that and that was it. It just took it on. The Egyptian came in and then it brought me back to the journey. I always knew Sizzla and all these guys. I always knew all the Rasta guys from Jamaica. But then when I started to transition with the hip hop stuff, XXX, that actually let me see what, publishing and these things look like, So that was my journey within that sphere. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. I really think I could definitely tell there's been like stages in your career, and I feel like honestly, man, I really feel like right now you're like just at this like peak, and I mean like it's gonna keep that's
thank you.
Sure, man. No, seriously, but it's dope to see like, it's always been like up, you know what I'm saying? So I really think that's dope. And recently you worked with Vybz Kartel, and that's just dope. When I saw that collab happen, I was like, "What? FX is working with Vybz Kartel." So definitely talk about how you came about working with him. That's crazy.
So, that back in 2005, Remember that Gun Session Akon remix?
Mm-hmm.
It was Cartel who started it, you know.
Oh wow, yeah.
His verse goes Buddha bye per Eminem. And it's actually the first time someone ever called my name in a song.
Oh,
so he
snap.
said Obsession, FX, Gun Session. Look who we make. Hey, Buddha. At the time he never met me. 2005.
Wow.
So Obsession is the one who told him that my partner name is FX. You know, call his name in the record. But I'm from Portmore. I'm from Passage Ford, right beside where Cartel lived. He lived on my block.
Yeah.
But again, going to church and stuff like that, I don't think he'd ever know that that's who I am, you know? So what happens is last year now, 2020, he has an album called The Dans and Divas that they were poisoned to be in a certain position that should get some notoriety and Billboard and stuff like. It's gonna be Carter's biggest album. I sent a track to a mutual friend of mine, Butler. Butler is the one who introduced Cartel to Bounty Killer, which took Carter's career, you know what I mean? The years ago. So Butler is always instrumental in those assistance of helping people to get ready together. So I gave Butler the track. I get on my birthday, May 31st, and June 1st, I get a WhatsApp message with a vocal in it, a song in it, on my track, Vybz Kartel track, Stay With Me. What? You know what I mean? I was like, wow, what's up? He says, I'm doing an album and I would like to, you know, get some of your feedback, you know what I mean, and some support with it. I said, of course, it's my honor. Yeah, but he's talking to me as an American, like I'm an American guy, you know?
Oh, okay.
So I said, yo, DJ, Amir, FX, you know?
Yeah.
What, FX? Like Gun Session, FX. So what? You are the same guy, Grammy and yeah, same Grammy board.
You thought you were American. That's pretty funny.
Yeah. He's like, man. What? You know, when I was even telling him about the Gun Session, he's like, no, man, but the guy in New York is big.
Yeah.
A big guy. I was like, that's Obsession. Not big anymore, you know? So when he did that, no, it was, I knew what he wanted to do and where he wanted the music to go. I mean, there was just this new wave of music coming out. And, you know, a lot of the old methods have changed. You know, it's TikTok. I don't think no one was really, he knew about TikTok, but no one was kind of telling him that this is like the organic way, you know what I mean, to get it happening. So he was most intrigued by me keep speaking about this TikTok method. I was like, let's do it. So we did his album and he already had his songs done already. But I did the few songs in like maybe, you know, I work fast, like maybe a day or two. Got it mixed. Because I had to catch. His album was slated to be released June 26th. And we were just still talking at June 15th. So we still had to catch the release date. And he really wanted me to be on it, on the release of the album. And I was like, wow, I really appreciate that. So I spoke to him and I recognized he's truly a genius. I mean, truly a genius. The way how he does what he does, you know?
Absolutely.
Truly. Yeah. And I have to tip, you know, with, you know, his recording. I can't even get into that. You know what I mean? Yeah, but he's truly a genius.
No, for sure. No, but he's definitely, you know, he's got.
And we still got more. We still have more stuff. You know, we still have some stuff that the world hasn't heard. You know, Cartel on one drop reggae beats, dubstep beats, disco tracks.
Wow.
You know what I mean? When we release that should you see his versatility for real.
Yeah, I'd love to see Vybz on those types of beats. I'd be dope to see him step outside the box a little bit with that, man, because he always kills it. He always dropping some fire on everything, yo. So
we have it.
Hell yeah. I'm definitely be looking forward to that, man, for sure. You know, I definitely want to ask, you know, because with all the artists you've worked from the reggae dancehall scene, you know, I personally feel that like the reggae dancehall Jamaican culture, the whole music scene in general, just doesn't get the respect it deserves. It personally, like I almost feel like people don't realize just how big of an influence Jamaica's had on the scene. Do you feel it gets the recognition it deserves? How do you see it in 2021? Because a lot's changed from 20 years ago till now. You know,
a third world country has never gotten the respect. No third world country, whether it be Africa, whether it be, they don't really get the respect. You know, there's Africans who don't even like the current Afrobeat that you hear. You know what I mean?
True.
And what I found out, it's mainstream has their audience and what they would prefer. And most times when reggae even go commercial, it's sometimes a mainstream guy that is doing his version of it.
Very true. That's very true. Yeah.
Just like the recent DJ Khaled album. Nice. He loves the artist. He loves Bojo and Capleton and Bounty Killer, and he's like, I'm gonna do my version of it. And that's sometimes what people get presented. So when it gets presented, you're like, oh, this is it. And then someone will label it incorrectly. You know what I mean? Like when they had that Tropical House issue. You know what I mean? Tropical House was this genre that they were creating, and it's really dancehall. You know, Rihanna's work was considered Tropical House. And it's because a lot of the DJs, that European DJs and producers, are influenced by reggae, but they just label it differently.
Yeah.
And our world is not as organized as the first world. Stuff don't get registered properly. Songs don't even get released with credits on it. You know, with proper labeling, you know, and stuff like that. So it all get lost in translation. So, you know, even being with the, you know, sharing my space at the Grammys and stuff, I recognize that they themselves can't even understand it, because it's just how you received it. You know, when a record start to buzz, a record will buzz on radio, and then they start to hear, okay, this record is moving, but it's because there's a certain machinery that makes the record move. And what picks up on its own is not normally what plays in the streets of Jamaica.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because the streets is so contented with, yo, this is the way it is. You know, smoke some weed, and you know what I mean? No one is really thinking that, hey, how do we get this to the world?
Yeah.
So when like a foreigner comes and takes it there, they're just bringing their translation of it. You know what I mean? Imagine this for a minute.
Yeah,
jerk chicken in Jamaica, right? The real jerk chicken is made in a jerk pit, you know?
Yeah, jerk chicken in
jerk
Jamaica
seasoning
is
that you cannot eat enough. The jerk season hot, can't eat it.
Very true.
But then Bahama Breeze does their version of it too, which is just a roast chicken with some barbecue sauce in it, and they call it jerk chicken. And they want to bring a taste of the island to you. And that's what happened to reggae. The people that do their version of it, you know what I mean? That's what people tend to see commercially, and they're like, okay, this is, and then Jamaicans feel slighted by it. Oh, they took our stuff. And it's a thing where, for me, they make more money from it, but it's just, I appreciate that they still even want to make a version of it. It is for our people, and for people like me to make the machinery and the platform open, so people could also take that original form and put it on the platform. So to me, it's just to have it available in the platforms. And that is where dotting the I, crossing the T, getting your record mixed properly, labeled properly, have lyrics written, have credits written. It's these things where, for my culture, it's just more of an education that is needed. So it's just for us to just educate as much as I can. I will always do seminars or to speak to people, producers directly, prominent producers in the field. You know what I mean? That's what it is. But again, back to what I was saying.
Yeah.
Prophet is never really honored in his own place. The true form of reggae, Jamaicans not really into the real form of reggae. You know what I mean? Mental. No one makes mental. Ska, you know? You know what I mean? They don't really, you know, because it's kind of country. It's like bluegrass.
Yeah, absolutely,
you know,
absolutely.
Modern day country artists now really want to do bluegrass. You know what I mean? But it's one of the core of their country genres. So it's just more education. You know what I mean? And it doesn't get what it deserves. A big one, which I can put out here.
For sure.
Grammy, reggae. Reggae Grammys. When you collect the Grammy, it's received in the back, not on the big stage on TV.
They don't televise that. No.
And I could tell you why it's not that way. And I could say it here, and it's open platform. We don't have enough people to vote.
Oh, damn.
In order to be a member to the Grammys, it's $100 US to be a part of the membership. $100 US is a lot for one Jamaican to find.
Yeah.
To pay that a year. That's a lot of money for them. That's like $10,000, big money in Jamaica. 100, I don't know how much money. $10,000 Jamaican, and that you could buy food, a lot of food with $100. So for most people to sign, because you can't vote if you're not a member. It's $100 to be a member. So those who can vote is normally Americans who love the reggae culture, who are not really, they don't really know what's going on in the culture. So that's really what happened. So there's not enough people to vote. So it's not a big enough genre. So just like classic a children's album, they get collected also on the small stage, and it's not a part of the ceremony. The ceremony is about the pop and the viewing audience, because the Grammy ceremony is what keeps the Grammy alive.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Yeah, it helps to pay for Grammy U and all these things for young children. You know what I mean? So I recognize that. Oh, because I used to, I used to be on the side with it too. I'm from Jamaican. We have a small stage, and I understand that there's just not enough people a part of the viewership and the voting of that. And the people are not there because they just don't know how to be there.
Yeah.
It's not a public thing. It's a recording academy. You know? So that's what one of the issues, of it is. So that's where sometimes people say reggae doesn't get the credit it deserves. And I understand why. You know what I mean? Because a guy with a bigger distribution, like Rude, Magic, why you want to be so rude? They're distributed by a major label, and they just do a reggae track, and it goes boom, straight to the world.
Goes popular.
You know what I mean?
It's like super popular, you know? And that's like the thing, like why I ask, because it's like there's certain songs that, like, people will like show me a song like, yo, this is reggae, like, yo, this is dance. I'm like, you call that reggae? Like I'm not saying, and the songs are good, like they're great songs, but it's like, growing up with the music, the reggae I heard, the dancehall I heard, I'm like, man, that ain't it. Like, that's not the real thing. Like, let me show you the real thing. Like, you can't even understand what they saying. You know what I mean? Like,
it's back to the jerk chicken again.
Yeah, it's back to the jerk chicken. It's got to be cooked in the right pot. Yeah.
So it's a thing where one of the tasks that I'm given is to constantly be an ambassador, to wave this flag and to get it into the right position. Because, see, there's an era where reggae music used to get a platform. Shabba era, Diana King, Mad Cobra, Girl Flakes, Mr. Loverman, Shabba, Maxi Priest. There's an era, Shaggy. And what I saw with that similar theme, Beanie Man, was that they were all distributed through major labels. So I recognize that it is just the platform that you're on, because the major tends to push your record the same way they push anything else.
Yeah, that machine is no joke. Yeah.
The machinery. So when I see that, most people are like, oh, independent. You got to be able to get that machine, because if people don't see the record, it's not that it's not good. They just didn't see it.
Exactly.
That's really why it's a machine.
Yeah, it's not too complicated to the reason why it is, but it can be a hard pill to swallow for some people. But I really think you definitely broke it down. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I know people love when dancehall and reggae plays in the club. Like, people go crazy, they dance, they hitting it. Like, so it's not, that's not the thing. I just feel like there's more respect that should be put on it. You know what I mean? Like, just more like, with the way how people love the drill scene and rap right now. It's like, that's getting its love and respect. It definitely deserves that. And, every year it gets more popular and popular. So that's always cool though. So I think it will get there eventually, as ignorance is not a bad word. It's just like not knowing is the better form of that definition. They just don't know, you know what I mean? And if someone knows what's the standard, they'll tend to meet the standard. If you say, okay, I need this, that, okay, I need to do that, you know what I mean? And our genre is still, I call it chaka chaka. You're not really organized, where someone will say, okay, this is a standard. Let's follow this protocol. When I do say it in the public arena, sometimes I'll be given a little resistance, because people just like to talk sick. And then I'll go back in my shell and I was like, ha, there they go, taking it again. Because I'll tell them that, hey, there's a standard, that and that and that and that. And then some lunatic would say, oh no, but back in the day, this record made it without that, and this thing made it without that. I was like, those are like
casino of records where you just got lucky. You know what I mean? But there is a standard. You know, there's a standard and there's a protocol, and if you follow it, you stand a better chance of getting the results that you should get. I mean, many people always counter me when I speak and say, "Oh, but this record made it back in the day," and I had records that made it just like that with nothing. But that's like going to a trying a lotto ticket or a casino or something like that, where you get lucky.
It's the same thing.
You get a standard, yeah. Yes. So
that's I think sometimes people forget like how lucky certain, how luck plays such a big part in the game sometimes, and how like you can't just make that the example. Like there's formulas and things, and I think sometimes it can be hard for people to look at it that way, but it really is what it is when it comes to those aspects. Like you can't make that the example. Like there's a certain way things go about and getting popular, and sometimes things just got lucky in that way. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
I definitely want to ask you. Yeah, I want to ask you though about just you being part of the Florida Grammy chapter as a governor, which is very very cool position that you got there. Just working with the Grammys. A lot of people think that just any song can get nominated, but they don't realize that there's certain steps and certain requirements that it takes to get a song to be nominated for a Grammy, regardless of how good it may be. So, what are some of those specifics? Like, how would someone be able to go about having a Grammy nominated song?
It is, you would never believe how timing is important. It's not as complicated as people think. From what I've learned, because I'm not currently governor this year. Okay. You know what I mean? But when I was a part of it, I think it was 2 years I was governor. I think you only serve that position for a year or two. Okay. Yeah. And what it is if you don't release an album during a certain window, I think it's September 30th. So around September to November, something like that. Voting season ends. And if you don't have an album that released around that time, you won't get caught into the voting season to even be considered into consideration category.
Oh, shoot.
That's just the first round.
Wow.
So most people say, yo, how come that record wasn't in and that album wasn't in? You know what I mean? It wasn't released around the time. People release stuff whatever they feel like. They release it in March because it's their birthday or something like that. But if you're trying to get to the Grammy thing, it got to be within the certain window, because that's when the voting starts.
Yeah, that makes sense, because I've seen like certain songs and albums where I'm like, that came out like 2 years ago. Like, why is it nominated now? So that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a window. Not to judge me wrong, I think it's September to November.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I think that's the window, but I've got to be sure of it. But I know it's a window around that time, around the end of the year. Yeah. Because the ceremony is going to be in January. You know what I mean? So when I found out that's one, you know what I mean? 2, voting. So the genre that you're in, where is the audience? You know what I mean? How many people are partaking? Do they even know that you exist? You know? So in the reggae world, a lot of the members are people, they're maybe from the country of Jamaica, they know someone, but they tend to be lovers of the reggae music, and they'll update their membership every year just to be able to vote for different genres and different categories. You know what I mean? Most people can't be bothered. I'm not paying $100 membership. Okay, now it's not benefiting me. Yes. That's it. You know what I mean? So when you can't be bothered, there's some genres that people, they feel the influence to be a part of it. It feels good. And there's genres like reggae where, why would I even vote for this category? Like, who's in it? That's, most people just see Bob Marley as the biggest thing, and everything else as just whatever, you know what I mean? Yeah. So for them, it's what's the incentive to really get involved in it. But the process is really, to me, it's the timing. Because after you get into the timing, just reggae alone, when you get the albums that are submitted from that window that I'm telling you about, there's like about 200 of those albums or more. And then they got to pick 5 out of those 200.
God damn.
Get into consideration.
Yeah.
The consideration.
Mhm.
And that's reggae. So can you imagine the pop, the hip hop, and the category? And then there's definitely other factors, which are maybe not mentioned, you know what I mean? Which are maybe not standard, just preferences of
Yeah.
members voting. People are like, well, this is mixed better. This has a nicer artwork. This is really buzzing for real, you know what I mean? I think we should go with this one. Coffee was a good example for me in the
Mhm.
Jamaican genre. It was a good single, and there were other people in the category, but their song was just hot. It made it on the Obama's playlist and
Mhm.
things like that. Like, how could he deny it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it would really cause an alarm if she didn't win that.
Yeah, no, definitely.
As it was unstoppable at that time.
Got the Obama
You know what I
cosign,
mean?
you know?
Yeah, you know, it's like people love the record. You got a good message. She's a good girl, you know what I mean? It's like, what else? This mix good, producer is good. Like, what else? So
Mhm.
that's one of those things where, but I know that different factors. I'll tell people, find out what the standard is. Where do the pros get their music mixed?
Mhm.
Where do the pros get their music mastered? These things to me are important. That's not factors in the Grammys. That's not factors that they talk about at all. But for me, I like to be able to rub shoulders with the greats,
Yeah.
you know,
Mhm.
and with the standard of what is required. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah.
I've definitely noticed that when it comes to those big records, they tend to have like that same type of vibe to it. You know what I mean? For me, I've listened and heard so many like songs. I've had the air to like just hear something like, man, like this is just checking off everything. Like everything hits so hard. Everything is so clean sounding and dope sounding. Like I just, I asked the question because I really feel like people just don't understand like how like there's levels to the mastering, there's levels to mixing. Like you take a song, like you can hear how much money is in a song. You know what I mean? Like I'll be here, I'm like, damn, this shit's loud, like in a good way. It's not abrasive. And then you hear another song, you're like, I gotta crank it all the way up. It's like that's the difference between a song that's a Grammy nominated hit and a song that's for lack of a better phrase, a song that's only on YouTube and it's, someone mixed it in on their laptop for the first time. You know what I mean? So it's those little.
I think those things. There's records that come out the woodwork, and even when the records start to buzz, when it starts to get big, they require it to be mixed over. You know, what I mean? I've seen that in so many instances. I remember once I heard this song with a guy named Makonnen, "Love on a Tuesday." Like, this is garbage.
Yeah.
But by the time the records start the mix, by the time I start to hear the mix, and I hear it all over the place, I was like, they mixed this over. Clean, you could hear all the dynamics. And I'm like, I see that it's a factor. I don't care what people tell me. People still prefer to have a nicer version of a song that they love already. You know?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's I think it's just so important, to all the artists to, who started out to, get that, get a clean mix, get the right sound in it. It will make your song sound so much better. And you might think you made a bad song because you didn't get it mixed right. It's like, no, you have a good song. You got to mix it. You got to get the right person to do it. Like it's a huge factor. And I think a lot of artists want to, avoid that. From my experience, I've noticed that. So
because it costs.
It does.
Cost factor. Yeah.
Definitely costs a lot to get the top line guys to do your mix.
Yeah.
So, I totally get it. And people don't think that's worth it, but believe me, it definitely is worth it. The people don't know that they're listening to this super high fidelity song, but they don't realize that's why they like it, but that's why they like it. It sounds super clean, So
yes.
It's in 4K, 8K, so put in TV terms. But I definitely want to ask you one more question before we get out of here. We've been going for a little bit, reaching the end of the episode here. So, I definitely want to ask you about just your plans moving forward with the FX Music Group. I see that you got that going on. What are the plans going forward with that?
Yeah, so the plans is to keep releasing records and also to let the audience and the world see a true record label, like a Motown, a real record label, like a real record house. I thought I thought someone was going to do it. I'd be happy enough to support anyone that had that vision. And I recognize that I don't think anyone wants to do it.
Yeah.
So I decided that I will do it because artists do need grooming and they do need a home to express themselves, to be able to learn how to speak. You know what I mean? Learn how to talk in interviews. Learn how do you register your records properly? You know what I mean? To recognize that running the FX music group, it will be that machinery, and it is the machinery where you can get a decent outlet. You know what I mean? At least you know that my music can go here, there, here, and there, and it can stand a fair chance in the competitive world of music. So I had to do it, and I'm still doing it, and I have to do it. So look out for the studio, the launching of the FX Music Group studio, the recording studio. And I'm started with that, with a physical building, because everything is virtual and people, so you can get what you need to get done. But physical still does something.
Absolutely.
Open up a door. You know, Motown still has a building that people go to visit. You know what I mean? And whatever. It's very good to have a place. Can at least have meetings with your artists. You know what I mean? Sit down, record, and have a home. We can create the sound. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Hopping from studio to studio. And if you buy a beat, it's not enough of creating a sound. You know? Because then different studios have different sounds, different mics have different sounds. And eventually artists start to perfect their craft when they're used to the sound of what they hear and what it's going to sound like. You know, and that's why the FX Music Group has to be in that way, at a machinery that can be a good outlet.
Hell yeah.
Yes, I'm doing it for sure.
I don't think, virtual meetings and all that stuff can only take it so far. You know what I mean? I think meeting up and having the crew around to make music is still, that can never die off, and I think, we've been stuck in the whole, lockdown with stuff. Well, I mean, you're in Florida, so it's a little different, but, at least around here, stuff's been kind of locked down and, so people have got to get used to that, but it's like, Nah, don't think that. Like, we still need to meet up and do these things. Like, yeah, we can do it, not meeting up, but it's not the same. It just isn't, you know what I mean? Like, I want to be able to meet up with people and do the podcast in person from now on, but like, it's still got to stay this way. There's still, studios that, need to open up to make that possible. But, human interaction, being in person, you can't replace that. You just can't.
Yeah, it's necessary. So we look out for the company. It's needed because I could see when I observe everything, even what's currently happening, I was like, that could be so much more better. This person could deliver so much better. I was like, did this person did that interview? Is that what they really wanted the audience to take from what they just said? And most times people are not aware of it because no one trained them to deliver what's really going on and how to properly answer the question, not give a bunch of examples, but answer the question correctly. It shows where your mind is at. A lot of people lose their fans when they start to talk and when they start to share their opinions. You know what I mean? And I used to say to myself, I rarely hear older artists, a Kenny Rogers or a Reba McEntire or someone of that. I rarely hear what their political opinion was. I don't hear it. You know what I mean? They kept it about the music. And there comes a time when somebody say, your music, man, I don't want to hear your opinion. Just sing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And these are things that I think a company and a label should teach. You should groom the artists into knowing that don't lose your fan base. Your fan base is important. You don't want to turn your fans out because you need them.
Absolutely.
Today's artists think that the fans is nothing. You know what I mean? Remember people used to cry for artists? They drop on the floor. Michael
those
Jackson
videos,
stuff.
the Michael Jackson videos, they were fainting.
They don't really do it anymore. you know?
Nah, well, I think social media broke down that fourth wall, and I think people just started speaking up so much, and it kind of got
it all out there.
Yeah, they got rid of the mystery, that's for sure. Yeah,
the mystery is needed. That you found the exact word. That's just the word I was gonna use. And it's still necessary. People say, "Oh, it doesn't matter." There's people that's gonna think that you're bougie. You know what I mean? Why you wear a suit all day long? Well, I'm going nowhere. You know what I mean? It's good to keep a standard. You know, a mystery. I wonder what it looks like without that. You know, good. Yeah.
No, there's definitely something to it. And I think that's real good advice to give. I think artists do too much talking, like way too much, like saying way too much, showing too much, like just everything too much. Like, yo, tone it down just a little bit.
Yeah.
Like,
too much opinions.
Yeah. So I definitely I'm happy to see that you're doing that with FX Music Group, man. But JonFX, I really feel like I could chat it up with you forever, man. Like, if we could
I love to talk.
Yeah, man. I know we could. I feel like we could keep this going. But I got definitely want to cap it off here, and I want to say thank you so much for being on the TempahZone podcast, man. I really appreciate it. It's been a long time coming. I know we've been in talks about it, so I'm definitely glad to make this happen. Is there anything?
I'm proud to see you doing it.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I appreciate that, man. Seriously, coming from you, that means a lot. So I'm happy to hear that, man. Is there anything you want to plug for the people before we get out of here? Message.
Yeah, JonFX. You know what I mean? JonFX online. Just Google JonFX, Instagram, Twitter, Spotify. There's a bunch of music there. There's instrumentals if you need. I throw them up all online. You know, at JonFX, and you'll find anything you need up there that is out there and thing. And thanks for having me once more.
For sure, man. No problem. You might have some people from Boston hitting you up after this one, man.
Let them hit me up. It's fine. Yeah. You know what I mean? We're always here. You know what I mean? To help each one. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And my brother. Thank you so much. Respect.
For sure. Appreciate it, man. All right, y'all. That's episode 102 of the TempahZone podcast. Tune in next week for another episode. All right. Peace out.